Hi, welcome to a quick overview of the RetroMachine plugin for After Effects. In this video, we are going to get a quick look at the plugin without getting too much into the details. As this is a massive plugin with lots of features and effects, we are going to cover everything in later videos. So let's begin right away. So the first option that you see in RetroMachine is use rate as master. When this is turned on, the rate channel controls are used as master channel controls. This does not mean that the rate channel itself is used as master, but only the controls. So let's open it up. So this is where you're going to be doing most of your work. Let's set the algorithm to air diffusion, and at first you might not be able to tell much of a difference because of the YouTube compression, and the image is quite large for a dithering algorithm. Fortunately, you can just go to adjustments and increase the downscale value until you reach a satisfactory visual look. I'm going to keep it at 3, and now you can see a tethering pattern in the image. And for those who don't know what tethering is, it's basically using less colors to depict a gradient. So here you can see it just uses 2 colors for this gradient, and in this example you are clearly able to see what difference tethering makes. It reduces banding when using very few amount of colors. Now when you select an option like air diffusion, let's call it an air diffusion engine, you'll get your controls in additive controls. And for say modulation, you can get the modulation controls right here. Ordered and pattern options don't have their individual folders, but you can just select their presets from right here. Let's go back to air diffusion and open up the controls, and you can pick a number of air diffusion algorithms right here. Let's go with diffusion row, and for each of these algorithms you're going to get a different look, so you can play around with these until you get a satisfied visual. So we'll get into this more in detail in later videos. For now, let's close this tab and switch to something else. Let's say modulation, and similarly you can get modulation controls right here. And when you increase the modulation depth, you're gonna get a more clear visual. And for modulation, we don't really need to downscale the image so much, so we're gonna turn it back to 1. And I suggest you play around with these values to see what these does, but basically you want to just focus on base frequency, modulation depth, and line thickness. And similarly you have other types of looks, algorithms, and their respective controls right below. Let's switch back to air diffusion for a moment. Now adjustments are something that is processed before the algorithms are done. So this is also known as pre-processing in many of the other softwares or websites of similar design, and these values are used to change the look of the algorithm themselves. And so for example, downscale just reduces the resolution of the image, as you already saw before, and you've got other basic controls like brightness and contrast, all of which are extremely important and helpful in deciding the final output of the image. We will also take a deeper look into adjustments in a separate video. Let's move on to palette, and here you can select presets and create your own color palettes. By default, it is set to Oaklat K-means. So this is a color quantization algorithm used to get a very realistic representation of the original image colors. You can also set it to auto quantize, but the colors won't be as accurate. But if you want to have this look, you have the option. And similarly, you can select other presets, all of which will give you a fantastic stylization of the image. You can also turn on use custom colors and pick your own colors. And one thing to keep in mind is that this color quantization takes place after the dithering algorithms. So first comes the pre-processing or adjustments. Then the image goes through the actual dithering algorithms. And then in the third step, the color quantization step takes place. And finally, you get post effects, which are the final processing of the image. And in post effects you have multitudes of different effects like signal distortion, dot matrix, chromatic aberration, and vibe glow. And for each of these post effects, you have got numerous controls. And to give you an example, I'm going to turn on the vibe glow. Let's reduce the voltage, which is basically the brightness of the glow. And we will also take a deeper look of all these post effects in later video. And now finally, if you take a look back at the use red as master control, if you turn it off, you can use all three channels separately, each with its own separate controls. One can have error diffusion, and green can have ordered, and the blue can have pattern or modulation or anything you like. This system gives you immense amount of control and unlimited artistic possibilities. So this is going to be it for the quick overview of RetroMachine plugin. In the next tutorial, we will get into the algorithm themselves. So I'll see you in the next video.